So everyone, welcome to ChessAdvancedd. This game was played in FIDE World Cup. With the black pieces, we have the magician Divya Deshmukh facing off against Stamatis Kourkoulos-Arditis, and Divya is in a must-win situation. She's gonna have to bounce back, and she's gonna have to play a really spectacular game with the black pieces, and she does as well. You're really gonna like this game. So without further ado, let's start with this game. Here, Stamatis goes for this knight to f3, he goes for the ready opening. We have g6, Divya goes for the queen keto, and here just d4 and just bishop g7, e4, d6. And while I was watching the game, I was just thinking about, is she thinking about going for king's Indian, or what is she planning? Because with the black pieces, what opening you choose is really gonna matter, because now you're in a must-win situation. Here just knight to c3 was played by Arditis, and here just knight to f6 and just bishop to e2 and castles and knight to c6. She decides to go for the perk defense, which is this is the Shigurian line, and this is very much important because Divya has to win this game. Here d5, now just going for knight to b8, h3 now, and just a6, just playing all of these moves to throw away your opponent. Definitely here a4 was played, and now just comes even e5. So is Arditis going to just go for en passant? And he does. He goes for this decaps on e6 en passant. We have bishop captures, bishop to f4 now, and just knight to c6, rook to e1. And here in this position, you can just develop simply with the move like rook to e8. Just go for rook to e8, bishop to f1 would come definitely, and after h6, now preparing maybe g5 somewhere along the line. If you play queen to d2, then g5 immediately, and after bishop to g3, now you just go for d5. Yes, you can push this thrust in this line, and after e5 attacking the knight, knight to e4 in this position, attacking the queen, and you're gonna have to trade knight captures, d captures, and after queen captures, rook captures, you go into this line where you have some control over the center. This is already being attacked. Most likely rook caps on e4 will be played, and you can play this bishop to d5, then attacking the rook, attacking the knight. With the bishop pair, you could have really nice chances, and with the pieces being developed, you would have some chances to be able to win this game. But after rook to e1, here knight to d7 was played by Divya. Definitely a move trying to throw your opponent off. A move with the knight back, always very difficult to find, and always an important one. Here queen to d2 was played. Now just comes to rook to e8 and rook 8 to d1. We have knight to c5, getting the knight on a very nice square, but you have to be careful about moves like b4. Here bishop to f1 was played, and now just comes f6. As soon as I saw the f6 move, because there was a lot of moves you could have played in this position, you could have gone for this knight to e5, you could have gone for b6 in this position, you could have also gone for queen to d7. There were a lot of moves in this position you can play, and you have to worry about a lot of these things. You also have to worry about bishop to h6. You have to worry about moves like these, and there are a lot of moves, a lot of things you can do in this position. And in this position, she just goes for f6, doesn't allow the knight to jump, doesn't allow the pawn to be pushed, and she allows the bishop to h6. But is Arditis going to play this? Because he just a5 by Arditis, and a5, he took a lot of time for this move, and I was thinking definitely not a good move. I mean, the moves that I was considering, maybe even bishop to e3, bishop to h6, none of those were played. And in this position, he just goes for a5, and immediately Divya plays the best move in this position, which is bishop to f7. And now just comes bishop to g3, and bishop to g3. The purpose of this move, I have no idea why he played this. Maybe he was worried about g5 somewhere along the line, but now Divya goes for it. She goes for g5, and what do you play in this position? Hey, just knight to h2. And knight to h2 is the best move in this position. Hey, just king to h8 and just f3. He cements the structure, and as you can see with the engine evaluation, engine is favoring white because of the space that white has, and white is covering a lot of space in this position. And to challenge that with a move like f5, you're doing absolutely fine. But in this position, knight to d7 was played by Divya, and knight to d7 is a move that seems passive, and Arditis can definitely take advantage of this. He goes for knight to d5. He takes up more space, and here knight d to e5. And now the position is something of sorts that you have less space, but maybe if Arditis is not able to find the right ideas in due time, you can try to get back into the game with decent moves. So maybe it could be prep. Sometimes there's psychological things as well, that you just give your opponent a little bit of an advantage, just a slight bit, and as soon as they make a mistake and not able to find the right idea that you have thought about, and they make just the slightest of error, you just bounce on them. And this has been used by many players, and maybe the way I was going for this, but in this position, just knight to g4, and knight to g4 asking for a trade. and you can go for a trade, but more the trades happen, the more your chances of winning this game goes away. So Divya goes all out. She goes for bishop to g6, doesn't trade the piece, and knight g to e3 was played, and now just comes this knight to e7, asking for another trade, but just bishop to f2. And now those bishop pairs have been decently placed. Position is closed, which is good. More tension in the center, more tension everywhere else will happen, and more the tension gets released, it will hamper Divya's position only because she has to win this game. Here queen to d7, and now just comes this knight captures, and the best move was queen captures, but Divya goes for the second best move in this position, which is rook captures, and just c4 in this position, but now just going for queen to e8, and an immediate queen to c2. Here just h5 by Divya. Divya is trying to create some chances towards the king side, but she's gonna have to do it very carefully because any mistake here would really prove to be fatal. Here just c5 was played, challenging those pawns in the center, but Divya doesn't care about pawns. She goes for rook to d8 in this position. C captures, and now just going for knight to d5, and you can see that white has a +2 advantage, and that could prove to be fatal. Divya has to be really careful, but Arditis also needs to find the right ideas. In this position, he goes for rook to f7. Divya goes for rook to f7, and he goes for this queen to d2, and now bishop to h6, nicely annihilating the bishop with the queen. And you have to go for this, you have to go for that in this position, but here rook to c1 was played. This just makes it much worse because now you're putting the rook also there. You can never get the queen out of the way, and queen and the rook at the same time, getting them out of the way is definitely going to be really painful. Here king to h7 was played by Divya, and now just comes bishop to e3. By the way, this is move 32, and you still need to make 8 more moves to be able to reach time control. Beautiful move for Divya to play in this position so that she can win, maybe have chances of winning in this position. And I'm going to ask you to find the video, see this position, look at it carefully, and try to find the only move that makes sense, that gives you some sort of advantage to be able to try and do anything. Have at it. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move. The move is h4, and h4 is the only move that gives you some sort of advantage, because here after rook to c7, yes, that will come. Queen to e6, now you play f4, and after g captures, bishop captures, rook caps on c7, after knight captures, you play queen to f7, and yes, trades have happened. Yes, that is not that good. Knight is going back to d5 most likely, and the thing is that you could have some chances in this position to be able to try and win. But here after bishop to e3, just bishop to g7 was played, moving the bishop back, but getting them out of this diagonal is definitely not a good idea. But Divya goes for it back because she doesn't want to trade. But how does Arditis actually try and win in this position? There was a move that he completely missed. He goes for bishop to b6 in this position, just attacking the rook, but this gives Divya a chance to be able to bounce back in the position. The move that Arditis missed was h4. Yes, both players could have gone for h4, and if Arditis had actually played this move, his position would have been completely winning, because now if you try to go for h4 in this position, you have a lot of ideas. Definitely you can jump in with the rook as well, and you can try to bust up in the position. You can already see there's too much tension. Knight is already eyeing this, bishop is eyeing this, and that pawn structure would have definitely collapsed, and you would not want to capture that, believe me. But here after bishop to b6, rook d to d7 was played, and now just comes this king to h1 and queen to f8. Divya could have also gone for a move like, rook to c8, but the thing is that, hey, you just allow more trades to happen, and that's something that Divya did not want. So she goes for rook d to d7, but here just king to h1 and queen to f8. And now in this position again, there is a chance for white to come back into this position, and you have to go for again that h4 line. After knight to c6, you play bishop to c4, and here just going for g4, and after knight to f4, you play bishop to h6, just again pinning this piece. And after f captures, h captures, bishop to e3, now you play this bishop caps on f4, bishop captures, and maybe you can survive this, but this is the only chance you'll have. And yes, there's a lot of pressure, and yes, I mean, you have 3 pawn islands. It's not a good position, definitely not a good position to have, but you have to understand that this was the best you had. But white can take advantage of this, and white can have a chance to be able to win this game. Also, there's pressure towards the rook as well. And so, but after queen to f8, I don't know what happened, but Arditis took a lot of time on his clock, and he played a move which is very mysterious to me. But he played f4, and f4, I was like, what? Why are you just throwing away a pawn for absolutely no reason? Because now I can capture this, and Divya goes for it exactly. She goes for g captures on f4, which is the best move in this position. Knight captures was played, and now just comes bishop to h6, and I can pin this now, and that pin is going to be exceeding towards the rook as well. So even if you move the queen away, the rook is still going to be hanging. But hey, just bishop to e3 was played, and now just comes bishop captures. The move that you want to play in this position to be able to try and survive is actually bishop caps on e4. And this was the move that you're supposed to play, but in this position, Divya goes for bishop caps on f4, bishop captures, and rook f to e7, and here rook c to d1. So Artist does get an advantage in the position, but he just queen to e8, and now just comes this queen to f2. So there is towards some pressure towards that weak pawn, and if Divya is able to get some, get that pawn here, I mean, out of this game, I mean, she can have some chances here to be able to try and win, but it's a long shot. Here, knight to f7 was played by Divya. The best move was actually knight to c6 to be able to have some pressure towards this pawn, but it's very difficult to find. And the thing is that Divya was down to like 5 seconds, because this is the 40th move. You don't want to make a mistake on your 40th move, and with that in mind, she just goes for knight to f7 instead of knight to c6. Although it looks same and you are protecting the pawn, so it's supposed to be better than knight to c6. But why is knight to c6 better? Well, knight to c6 is better simply because of the fact that here, yes, I'm giving up the d6 pawn. Rook captures, bishop captures, and after rook to e6, you play bishop to g3. But I am capturing the h5 pawn, and with that, I have one passer here. So maybe with the outside pass, pawn structure towards the king side is weak, but I have traded one pair of rooks. So I'm out of the storm now, but still, I have to be really careful. Maybe you play rook to d1, and the game goes on, definitely. But here, after this, knight to c6 was not played, and Divya just goes for knight to f7, but he just queen to h4. And queen to h4 is the best move in this position, because now you're threatening to pick up the pawn, and I was hoping that Divya goes for king to g7 in this position, because the thing is that with king to g7, while I was watching it live, it just seems so natural, because you don't want to play the best move in this position, because knight to f5 allows so many trades. But here, knight to g5 is the best move. Here, if you go for knight to g5, then just comes bishop captures, f captures, queen captures, and that was played in the game. Here you have rook to e5 attacking the queen, and Divya finds it. She finds all of these moves. She takes a lot of time, but she was able to find this. Here, Arditis had, and she almost tricked Arditis. She almost got the thing that she wanted. Here, you were supposed to play queen to g3. And queen to g3 is the best move, because you are pressuring this, so the rook cannot move, and that's the idea to go about this. But Arditis blunders in this position, and it goes for queen to h4. And to queen to h4 is not at all a good move, but there is only one move that can save Divya in this position, or can give her a very nice advantage. And there is actually two moves, but one move Divya played, but one move she was not able to find over the board. So I'm asking you again to pause the video and to try to find it yourself, or not, I'll just show it to you. If you don't want to calculate all of this, the move is actually rook captures on a5, and this is the only move. If you go for bishop to c4, now just comes queen to e7, queen to f2, and after rook to c5, now you just play bishop to a2, and after a5, just bishop to b1, queen to g5, and bishop to a2. And now after queen to e5, you've centralized your pieces. I'm just pushing those pawns. It's going to be difficult for you to push those pawns, because your king is on a light square, and also all of these pawns are very weak, so that is definitely going to help me. But on the contrary, here I have some chances. Most likely this position should be a draw, but still, Divya would have some chances to be able to try and win in this position and push for a win. But here, after queen to h4, she goes for the second best move in this position, which is almost as equal to that, and she goes for this queen to d8, just trying to put pressure here. And you could trade this and go into an endgame, which I wanted to avoid, because queens on the board, you have much more chances to be able to try and win this game. Here, queen captures on d8 was placed by Arditis, rook captures, and just rook to d5. And Divya again finds the best move. She goes for rook caps on e4, but the thing is that it's very difficult. And if you actually found rook caps on h5 here, kudos to you. The game would have been a draw still, but you would have found the best move. But Arditis missed this. He goes for rook e to d1, and he just rook to b4 by Divya. But the move that Divya was supposed to play in this position was very crucial. She was supposed to find this bishop to f7, and I cannot emphasize enough on how crucial this move is, because here, after rook 5 to d4, you play this rook to e5, and after b4, just e5, and rook 1 to d2, king to g7, bishop to e2, and king to f6. You have a central pass pawn, and maybe, just maybe, some hopes of staying alive in this position and in this match, maybe try and win this. But here, after rook e to d1, rook to b4 was played by Divya, and now it's very difficult trying to go after the pawn. And surprisingly enough, the move that she played was the first move that came into my mind as soon as I saw the position. But after I was able to get some analysis, I understood that this move is not going to be good enough. Here, bishop to d3, and bishop to d3 is the best move in this position, and Arditis finds it immediately. And here, bishop captures, rook captures on b2, and rook caps on h5 was played with a check, king to g8, and here just rook to d5, king to f7, and here rook captures, rook captures, and rook to b5. Now just going after the pawn. But in this position here, you have to be careful. The move that you want to play is actually king to h2. Believe me, this is the only winning move. The move that Arditis played was rook to d7 check, and this actually gives Divya a chance to be able to again come back into the game. And she finds the idea, she goes for king to e6, and this is the natural move that you're supposed to be playing as well. A rook to g7 was played, and now just comes this king to d6. But king to d6 was not the good idea. Hey, you're supposed to play king to f6 and again harass the rook. And once rook goes to c7, you play this rook caps on a5, you sacrifice the b7 pawn, and here after rook captures, you play rook to b5, rook to a7, and after a5, rook to a8, king to g6, and this is how you draw this. This is, believe it or not, actually a draw. You cannot win this game. And this was the way, but Divya missed it, or she was not able to find this. But most likely, hey, the thing is that no one would actually see that you have to sacrifice the b7 pawn, and this is how you place the king here, and then you can try and maybe win this, maybe somehow. But because the thing is that you cannot push those pawns, rook is covering all entirety of this, your king is already here, and maybe all you can do is just try and push that pawn, or maybe just move the rook back and forth, and your position should be a draw. But here after rook to g7, king to d6 was played by Divya, which was the more natural move, and she is low on the clock as well, so she has to play fast. Here h4, rook caps on a5, rook caps on b7, and here in this position again you have to play this rook to h5, you have nothing else. Here g3 was played, king to c6, rook to b1, and just a5. And now unfortunately there is no way for Divya to try and get back into the game, and this endgame is unfortunately completely lost. Here rook to a1 was played, king to b5, king to g2, and king to b4, king to h3, and here king to b3. It's only a matter of conversion now. g4, rook to c5, h5, king to b2, rook to f1, and just a4, h6, and rook to c8, g5, rook to h8, king to g4, and a3 was played. Now just comes king to h5, a2, and just rook to f2 check, king moves, and now here just sacrificing the rook as well, king captures, just g6 was played, rook to b8, and h7. And it was on this move, on just move 73, that the magician Divya Deshmukh resigned the game. All I can say is that although she could not win on demand, which is never easy, you always have to understand that this is a knockout tournament. There's going to be games like this, which where you are supposed to win, where you are completely winning, where you have some chances but you're not able to convert. It's not at all easy, but definitely she has played spectacular chess, and I cannot emphasize enough, she had played phenomenal chess this year. I mean, just completely showing how powerful she really is, what a spectacular talent she really is. All I can say is definitely more power to this champ. She's really a genius prodigy. If she continues to play like this year, the way she has played, it's absolutely amazing, and her game is really gonna rise. There are a lot more tournaments to come, lot more opportunities. She should take everything that she can from this tournament, take a lot of learnings, and just keep rising like this, because this is definitely a world chess champion in the making. And this champion definitely needs to keep her head held high, because she's been taking spectacular decisions towards her career, and the candidates is coming in. She should just continue to keep her mindset of a champion really alive, because at the end of the day, results don't matter. What matters is the learnings that you take from it, and just keep on playing amazing chess like you do. We are all here in India definitely amazingly proud of you. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.